My favorite thing to do with this is to group all my tracks like this, select them all, route them to another empty track, and put Energizer on that track. So let's add some here as well.
Ugh, that just sounds hard.
Okay. To some of you, this probably looks like, clean. There's just too much stuff sitting on that desk. So, all right, there we go. Way better. Magically moved all my stuff to that corner. That's kind of my junk section of the whole studio. Just pile stuff, work on little knick-knack projects, drones, just all kinds of fun stuff happening over there. But over here, this is where we get really serious. This is the studio setup. You guys seen it, you guys love it. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is SIKKY. I'm a producer from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And in this video, I'm gonna show you my 5 steps or 5 tricks to getting my drums to knock that you guys are definitely gonna want to watch, because there's some new unique stuff that I don't think people have really talked about. Now, before we get into that video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications in case you want to see more stuff like this. If you don't, that's up to you, but that's just saying, giving you free information and help a brother out with a subscribe or something. But anyways, yeah, let's get into this. For this video, I'm gonna keep it straight, simple, straight to the point, tutorial style. And what I'm gonna show you are 5 steps to making your drums knock. Step number 1, you gotta pick high quality sounds. It's a given, but I'm not gonna just leave it at that. I'm going to explain to you exactly what to listen. Step number 2 is to pitch your sounds so that they sound right for the song, because every sound has a pitch that it sounds best at. Number 3 is to shape the length of the sound. We'll get more into that. 4 is to use saturation and distortion, but a better way to do it, because the pre-computed effects are just not always. Number 4, I'm gonna show you how to use distortion and saturation, not with Soft Clipper, not with the pre-computed effects, but another way that works way better, will make your drums sound way more thumpier. And number 5 is to use EQ and compression. Now, before we get into that, I want you guys to know, the further away we get from step 1, the less you want to do with that. The reason why I say that is because as soon as you start boosting 20 dBs with your EQ to get the snare to do this and that, you're really using the EQ and the compression as a crutch for poor sound selection. Because if you pick the right sound, you really shouldn't even have to get to number 4 or number 5 sometimes. So that being said, first step, picking good quality sounds. Now, what makes a sound good quality or high quality that you will actually want to use? I actually have my tablet with my notes on it. When it comes to picking the sounds, I kind of divided it up into 4 kind of categories. The tone of the sound, whether it's bright or dark. Number 2 is the character of the sound itself. Is it a live snare drum, or is it a 808 drum machine type of synthetic snare drum? Number 3 is the length of the sound. For example, 808s, if it's a long 808, a short 808. That same step can also be applied to kicks, hi-hats, snares, all that stuff. And number 4 is the transients, the very small half a millisecond, 2 milliseconds of a sound, 5 milliseconds of a sound, the transient that really hits your ears and makes you go, whoa, that sounds tight. In front of me, I have an example of some poor sound selection and some good sound selection. For the bad drums that I've used, I've just picked random sounds out of like some free kits and stuff. And for the good sound selection, I've picked out sounds from my Paradise Cartel and my Quantum drum kit. Both of them, I definitely think if you are interested in stepping your game up, you can't make a better investment. I sincerely mean that. I'm gonna play for you good sound selection and bad sound selection. So, can you hear the difference between the two? The first one sounds like everything kind of sits around the 100 to like 300 hertz range, whereas the drums that I have from my drum kit are equally spread out across the frequency spectrum. And that's a conscious decision to, hey, I want my 808 to be like really deep. I want my kick drum to hit around in the low mid-range frequencies around like 100 hertz or something. And then I have my clap kind of sitting around like the 1 to 2 kilohertz, and my hi-hats around like 5 and up. So that's kind of the thought process. Okay, so the next thing is to talk about pitching the sounds up and down. Now, this specifically works really well when you have a melody and an 808, because sometimes an 808 doesn't sound good in the range that it's in. For example, this 808 might not sound good here and might sound good maybe like 3 semitones down. 1, 2, 3. You do that by holding shift and the down arrow. And sometimes that doesn't sound too good, so maybe it's like 2 semitones up. To me, to some people that might not be a huge difference. To me, that's the little details that really matter. And the only way to know whether it works is to be mindful of it when you're making your songs and try to see if you can improve the sound by pitching it up and down to find the right register that works best for the sound that you have. Step number 3 is to shape the length of the sound. Now, how do you do that? The common way of shaping the sound's length is by going into your main sampler track and just doing the out knob. That is one way to do it. But my issue with that is that this is a linear fade, meaning it is just going to be it's going to basically look like this. Watch. You're going to basically fade the volume out like this. It's going to be a straight fade, and you're just going to, when you're turning the out knob. To me, that's not necessarily the best way of doing that. How do I go about, shaping the sound? There's 2 ways that I like to do it. I do like using the out knob, but I don't use it to be precise. I have it a little bit there, and then I'll actually use the time stretch algorithm, and I'll use the multiply to actually bring it down. I like to, never go below, let's say 80 to 85, and no more than 105 to 110. And let's just listen to it versus, again, it's a small difference, but to me that sounds way better, punchier, really tight. I like it. It sounds good. And then the other way is to go here to the ADSR and click on the volume tab and use the envelope. Same thing, but you can actually get way finer detail. That's perfect. That is how I would kind of go about doing that. The only reason we're doing this and not picking a sound that's short, because most of what I liked in the sound was already there, and it needed those 1 or 2 tweaks to get it to that final point. Notice we haven't pulled out an EQ, we haven't compressed it, we haven't done anything other than manipulate the raw sound. Number 4, this is something that I do on every single song that I use, and that is saturation or distortion. The way that I used to do it was just to open up, let's say, my kick channel and go into the pre-computed effects and then turn on the clipper and then boost. My issue is that you can't really fine-tune the sound. It sounds good here, but it gets too gnarly too quickly and too fast. So how do I do it? Up till recently, I used to do this with like 4 or 5 plugins, distorting and then EQing it and compressing it, doing all kinds of stuff to get it to this point. Now I've made a tool for myself that I've made available for you guys. It's called the One Knob Energizer, and I'll hopefully be doing more videos about this in the future so you guys can have a better understanding. But this is simply, you turn the knob, you get saturation. And what's cool is that it gets really dirty towards from the 75 to 100% mark. But anywhere in between, you can really get the fine little details. And if you really want more, just drive the inputs. So let's see what we can do with the kick drum here. gonna clean up the low end after. Okay, so that sounds pretty good to me. And you know, if in case we wanted to make it a little more, you know, darker because of distortion creates all this, we can do the turn down the dark and all that. But let's add some to the 808 as well. I feel like the 808 needs a little more character as well. Cool. And the last thing I want to put it on is on the actual clap track. Let's go into here, Energizer, put it on there. You're like, why would you put distortion on a clap? This is what's cool about it, is because it really brings some aggressiveness to those kinds of sounds. Now, distortion tends to create low end in sounds that don't necessarily have it. For example, this clap doesn't have any low end that I remember in this. At least I don't remember there being any low. There, so it's a little bit fatter, a little bit thicker sounding, you know? Versus if we take it off. And my favorite thing to do with this is to group all my tracks like this, select them all, route them to another empty track and put Energizer on that track. So let's add some here as well. Now tell me, would you rather have drums with just the right sound selection, a little bit of manipulation, sound like this? Sure, it could work, but what if they sounded way more aggressive? And you know, if you're, that's pretty aggressive for even for me, but like, you know, you could have it down here too. Listen to that, the low end specifically. I don't know about you, that's just, I just love that. So the next thing is EQ and compression. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, when you're doing EQ and stuff, you don't want to go heavy-handed. You don't want to go pull up your parametric EQ and just be like, yo, it needs to be thumpier, just freaking like it just, it won't do. You know, you don't want to shape that unless you're doing sound design. That's a different case. Just go nuts with the sound design, bro. Like for kicks, I usually kind of EQ them if I really have to. Normally you won't ever see an EQ on my thing even then. Type, maybe high pass. And to be honest with you, that kick could use a little, it could be a little bit shorter. There we go. And the thing for me is that all of these tricks kind of work hand in hand with one another. You might turn up the out knob on a sound and then decide you want to add some distortion. Well, distortion will add, you know, will make the sound almost sound longer than it sounded when you had no distortion on it. So you're going to go back to the distortion, starve the low end. Okay, so that is kind of what I would do about getting my drums to kind of knock. Little bit of sound selection, little bit of shaping the transient of the sound, a little bit of using distortion and EQing. And again, I really stress this, good sounds always go a long way. You can't polish a turd. You can't turn a turd into a necklace. You can't turn it into a diamond bracelet unless you have diamonds to begin with that can be shaped and done, you know, extra things like that. So that being said, you know, that's kind of what I have for you guys. I hope you guys learned something in this video. I hope you guys, you know, go out and make harder hitting beats because of these techniques that I've showed you. If you enjoyed it, smash that thumbs up, dude. Like, that helps a lot. You know, leave a comment if this helped you out. If there's a technique that you specifically do on your track, share that. This is all about community and helping each other out. And if you have a trick that might help others create better music, feel free to share that. In fact, if you share a technique that's super great, I'm gonna send one random person a free copy of Energizer. Just leave a comment sharing a way that you get your drums to knock, whether it just be, you know, picking the right sounds or EQing it a certain way or anything really. Leave a comment and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Love's gonna get you killed.